Hey everybody, thanks for joining. Before we get started, I just want to go over a couple of quick things. You could pick up the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim normally for $39.99, but there actually is a special promotion going on until August 11th, at least at the time of this recording. It's a great deal for this game, so check it out. And here below you can see the supported languages. As you can see, it's English, French, Italian, German, Spanish, Polish, traditional Chinese, Russian, and Japanese. I am looking currently at the special edition version, which is the most complete edition of the game. There's also an older version of Skyrim for PC, and I think it should have the same language learning options, but definitely double check before playing. And here below you can see the minimum system requirements to play the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Definitely, it's a pretty old game, but the remastered version obviously has some updated graphics. So definitely make sure that your PC can run the game before starting. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Matt, and today I wanted to talk about learning languages with the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. This is really an amazing video game to learn foreign languages to, and it's a lot of fun as well. And it really is just an amazing resource. There's so many ways to learn, whether that's from vocabulary acquisition to listening to even practicing speaking. And what I thought I would do is kind of talk a little bit about some high level concepts with the game, about how you can learn languages to, some best practices, and then kind of try to show you a little bit of footage of the game in action from the language learning perspective. So I'm just going to be kind of standing here enjoying the view and talking a little bit, and after that we will go in and show you that gameplay. So one of the things that's amazing about Skyrim is that there's so much vocabulary acquisition. There's so many words to be learned in this game, and a lot of it kind of centers around maybe a more fantasy, medieval-esque scenario. So you'll see a lot of the same words again and again. But that's kind of the nice thing about an RPG as well, is that as you toggle through menus and you play the game, you're going to see the same words again and again, which almost kind of acts as if you have this kind of natural SRS review. So, for example, when I pull up my menu, I'm going to see the word for object again and again, or the word for map again and again. And currently, my game is in German, so don't worry if you don't speak German. It's just purely for demonstration purposes. But you're going to see that word again and again, and it's hopefully going to help you to internalize those words over time. So as I scroll through my weapons, for example, I'll be playing the game, maybe equipping certain items, certain weapons, and I'm going to eventually just slowly internalize some of the vocabulary in the game, whether that's an iron dagger or whatever. And it's going to go beyond that, because you're going to see these words again and again in conversations, when reading other parts of the game, and it's a huge way to learn vocabulary. And like I said, you're going to get that natural review process in as well. The second kind of big advantage with Skyrim is that there's a ton of listening content. The entire game is fully voice acted, and there's tens and if not hundreds of hours of gameplay in this game. So there's so many conversations to listen to, and what's awesome is that you can play with subtitles or without subtitles. So if you want to kind of have some training wheels with your listening, you can put those subtitles on, and hopefully it kind of will help you to get better at listening, but also kind of pick up some of the words. But if you're looking for a more challenging option, or maybe a more immersive approach, you can turn those subtitles off and try to understand what's going on by just listening to the content. In addition, there are kind of options, or I guess moments in the game, when your character will say certain things to other characters. And that might be a good time to just maybe practice shadow speaking and saying some of those phrases out loud in the language that you're learning. So, for example, if your character was going to say a response to a merchant, maybe you can say that out loud and slowly work on your accent and work on your speaking as well. And then I think the last thing that I would point out is that it's a great way to also kind of internalize grammar concepts, because the game is fully voice acted and there's a lot of text to be read. you're going to see grammatical structures that naturally occur in the language again and again, whether that's word order, irregular verbs, different tenses, and things like that. So, if you're at least familiar with those grammatical concepts, it'll hopefully help you to get more comfortable with some of those grammatical concepts, maybe even act as an internal review. And so, if you kind of combine all of these elements, you're really getting a really nice, complete package with the game. And it's truly is just an amazing resource. So, one of the things that is also great about the game is that it's very story driven. There's a ton of quests, and like I said, the game is fully voice acted, and so that leads you with a lot of opportunities to try to understand the story on what's happening around you. So it's kind of like consuming an audiobook or even just reading a normal book in the sense that you have this story. There's a bunch of dynamic events happening, different characters, and you'll be tasked with trying to maybe understand what's going on in the story. Like the way I like to think about a lot of RPGs is that you're a foreigner in the land, and you're trying to understand. What's going on around you, and it's going to be tough as that foreigner. And I think that that kind of role playing aspect and trying to put yourself in that situation is really it's a great alternative to maybe having to live in a country, right? It's not perfect. Obviously, maybe not everyone will think of it that way, but it is kind of a unique way to think about things. Before we begin too, and I show off some of the footage, some of the audio content, and stuff like that, I wanted to just mention that one great suggestion to do before you play the Elder Scrolls is use Google Translate. Have that open in another tab, in a second monitor, or even on your phone or iPad or something like that, where you can look up words that you don't know. And you don't have to look up every single phrase because inevitably there's going to be a lot of words that you don't know, or there's going to be some funky grammar and you're just not going to understand it. And don't be worried about that. Be okay with being overwhelmed. Look up the words that are relevant for you, or maybe you want to understand a phrase, but maybe try to not to be too obsessed with understanding everything, because then you'll probably be looking up Google Translate way too much. Periodically look at Google Translate, but use it as a supplement rather than as a complete thing to translate every phrase, because at that point you're playing a Google Translate game. I think that's really important to consider. The second thing too that is worth pointing out, that's a big advantage of the game, is that you're going to get kind of natural language learning breaks in the game. So there's elements of the game where you're maybe fighting or exploring, and there's not a lot of language learning going on. So in those cases, you're not really learning the language, but you're getting a nice break. You're almost kind of getting these pauses in between language learning, and that kind of allows you to play for longer and not have your head just kind of overwhelmed and saturated with too much information at once. And so it kind of acts as this nice break in between these language learning sessions, whether you're listening to audio, reading content, or whatever. But maybe you're getting small bursts by reading menus and things like that. The last point I would really make before kind of showing you a little bit of the game is, try not to be overwhelmed. I think this is a big mistake that a lot of people make when they're trying to play video games and learn a language, is that it just is super overwhelming. There's a ton of words that they don't know. The audio content may be very quick and they don't understand what's going on. There's a ton of grammar. Be okay with being overwhelmed. It's totally natural. I mean, if you're playing in a foreign language, it's almost meant that you're fluent in the language. So there's obviously going to be some struggles with that. Be okay with that overwhelming feeling. And as you keep playing the game, you're going to get more comfortable. You're going to, look up the menu words or things like that, and you're going to slowly be comfortable with that overwhelming feeling, but you'll slowly get that vocabulary of the words that are very important, whether that's menu items or common items in the game. And so it'll slowly get better. It's going to be it's going to take some time, but try to stick with it and be okay with that overwhelming feeling and not knowing a bunch of the words on the screen, or struggling with listening or comprehension. It's probably going to be a struggle a little bit depending on your skill level, but I would really just stress, try not to be overwhelmed. Because if you stick with it and you're okay with that, you're going to have a lot of fun in the end of the day if you stick with it. So what I think I'll do is um, I'll try to do a mashup of some of the audio content with the game, some of the conversations, and some of the gameplay so that you can just kind of get a feel of what the language learning possibilities are. And hopefully, with that, you can start to see, hey, maybe this is something that I want to try out. Maybe I want to pick up the game, or I want to uh, just change the language on the game if I already own it, and try to start playing. So rather than kind of trying to show you gameplay on the fly and just going everywhere, I'll try to do a mashup here and show you some of the possibilities, and then we'll wrap it up.
Ich helfe meiner Mutter dabei, Obst und Gemüse zu verkaufen. Meistens macht es Spaß, aber es ist harte Arbeit.
Ich arbeite für Benetor im Gemischtwarenladen.
Ihr mögt Pfeil und Bogen, wie? Ich verlasse mich lieber auf mein Schwert.
Willkommen im zwinkernden Skewer, mein Freund. Werft einen Blick drauf. Nun, als kleiner Junge hatte ich einen Skewer als Haustier. Und er hat immer gezwinkert. Denke ich auch. Denkt an den zwinkernden Skewer, wenn ihr das nächste Mal wunde Füße habt.
Riecht ihr diese frische Luft? Wahrlich.
Смотри-ка, генерал Тулей, военный наместник. А с ним, похоже, далмарцы, проклятые эльфы. Наверняка это все они подстроили.
И годы враждуем с сынами битвы. Когда ты доживаешь до моих лет, уже не помнишь, почему ты сделал то или иное. Помнишь только, что это было. У нас говорят, серые гривы живут в Айтране с тех пор.
He oído que van a reorganizar la Guardia del Albar. Son una especie de cazavampiros que operan en un viejo fuerte próximo a Riften. Quizá me una a ellos.
Soy el mejor guerrero de Mortal, y no es una fanfarronada. Hasta la próxima.
¿Qué necesitas? Hablar de esa casa trae mala suerte. Sin embargo, el Jarl está buscando a alguien que no sea supersticioso. Si te digo la verdad, me parece que busca un necio. De acuerdo.
Yo, hablar no es lo mío. Prefiero no inmiscuirme en nada.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that footage. Really, I think the most important thing is try not to rush things. It's very easy, especially if you've played this game, to kind of rush through the menus, to use visual cues, to get through not understanding, maybe what something means, and rushing through conversations and not taking it slow to enjoy the language learning process. I think it's very important to take the game slow and really try to learn the language as you play. It's very easy sometimes to really avoid that. So try to do that. But hopefully this gives you a rough idea on how to play the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim and learn languages. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.